The night shift's secret. Tom Chen hadn't expected to find anything unusual during his night shift at Orbital Station Delta. After 15 years of maintaining the station's waste management systems, he'd settled into a comfortable routine. The graveyard shift suited him. Fewer people meant fewer questions about his divorce, fewer pitying looks, and more time to think about his daughter Sarah back on Earth. The recycling bay hummed with familiar efficiency as Tom checked the filtration readings. Most passengers aboard the luxury station never spared a thought for the complex systems that processed their waste, converting it back into usable materials. That was fine by Tom. He took pride in his work, even if it wasn't glamorous. The first sign something was wrong came from Bay 4's pressure readings. They were slightly off, indicating a potential blockage. Tom sighed, grabbing his toolkit. Just what he needed, crawling through maintenance tubes at 3 a.m. station time. The source of the blockage wasn't immediately apparent. Tom had to squeeze through 3 junctions before he spotted it, a shimmer of something that definitely shouldn't be in the recycling system. As he got closer, his headlamp revealed what looked like fragments of crystalline material, semi-transparent and faintly luminescent. "What the hell?" Tom muttered, carefully collecting samples in a specimen bag. In 15 years, he'd never seen anything like it. The material had an organic quality that set his nerves on edge. A soft scraping sound echoed through the tube behind him. Tom froze. The maintenance tunnels were supposed to be empty except for repair crews. He turned slowly, shining his light down the curved passage. 2 enormous eyes reflected the beam back at him, eyes that definitely weren't human. They belonged to a small figure huddled against the tube wall, humanoid but clearly alien. The creature's skin was a mottled pattern of grays and blacks that seemed to shift and flow like oil on water. But what struck Tom most was the fear in those eyes. "Hey there," Tom said softly, keeping his voice gentle. "You're not supposed to be in here. It's dangerous." He switched to Galactic Standard and repeated himself, but the creature only pressed further back against the wall. It was young, Tom realized, probably a child based on its size. But he'd never seen this species before, and he thought he knew most of the common spacefaring races. The station's strict entry protocols made stowaways rare. Something wasn't adding up. The creature made a soft trilling sound that tugged at Tom's heart. It reminded him of Sarah when she was scared. Before he could stop himself, he was reaching into his pocket for the protein bar he'd packed for his break. "Hungry?" he asked, unwrapping it slowly. The child. He was certain now it was a child. Watched his every move. He broke off a small piece and held it out. After a long moment, a 6-fingered hand darted out to snatch the food. The child devoured it quickly, then looked at him with something like hope. That's when Tom noticed the bruises, darker patches against the shifting skin that spoke of rough handling. His jaw tightened. Someone had hurt this kid. "I'm Tom," he said, tapping his chest. Then he held out the rest of the protein bar. The child hesitated only briefly before taking it. A sudden burst of comm chatter made them both jump. "Attention all security personnel. Continue search of lower levels. Target is priority 1. Shoot on sight. Repeat, shoot on sight." The child whimpered, curling into a tight ball. Tom's mind raced. He knew he should report this. There were protocols for unauthorized aliens on the station. But those 4 words, "shoot on sight," made the decision for him. "Okay, kid," he said quietly. "I don't know what's going on, but I'm not letting anyone hurt you." He held out his hand. "Want to come with me?" The child looked at his hand, then at his face, those huge eyes seeming to peer into his soul. Then, slowly, it reached out and took his hand. The skin felt cool and slightly textured, like fine silk. Tom led them through the maintenance tubes to his small office near the recycling control room. It wasn't much, but it had a cot for when he needed to work double shifts, and more importantly, it was secure. Few people even knew it existed. "You'll be safe here," he said, setting up the cot. "I'll bring you more food soon." The child climbed onto the cot, watching him intently. As it relaxed slightly, its skin began to shift color, taking on warmer tones. Tom's comm unit chirped, his supervisor requesting a status report on the blockage. He looked at the child, who had curled up on the cot. "I'll be back soon," he promised. "Don't make any noise, okay?" The child made a soft clicking sound that he chose to interpret as agreement. As Tom headed out to make his report, his mind was already working on next steps. He'd need food, proper medical supplies, and a way to communicate. Most importantly, he'd need to figure out who was hunting this child and why. He touched the specimen bag in his pocket, containing the strange crystalline fragments. Something told him they were connected to his mysterious guest. One thing was certain, his quiet routine was about to get a lot more interesting. Looking back later, Tom would realize this was the moment everything changed, not just for him, but for the entire human race. But right then, all he knew was that someone needed his help. And like his father always said, you can tell everything about a person by how they treat those who need help. The child watched him go with those luminous eyes, and for a moment, Tom caught a glimpse of something ancient and powerful in that gaze. Then it was gone, leaving just a scared kid who needed protection. Tom squared his shoulders and headed out. He had work to do. Secrets in the shadows. The next 48 hours tested every bit of Tom's ingenuity. He'd managed to establish a routine, checking on his mysterious guest between maintenance rounds, smuggling food from the station's kitchen units, and trying to piece together the puzzle that had landed in his lap. The child, whom he'd started calling Nova after noticing how their skin sparkled like starlight when they slept, was slowly beginning to trust him. They'd developed a crude form of communication through gestures and drawings. Nova proved to be remarkably intelligent, quickly learning to operate the simple tablet Tom had brought them. What troubled Tom were the increasingly frequent security sweeps. The station's private security force, the Blue Shield Corporation, had doubled their patrols. Their presence made every trip to his office feel like a covert operation. During one of his maintenance checks, Tom overheard two Blue Shield officers talking in hushed tones. "The syndicate's offering double now," one said. "They want the biotech intact." "Doesn't matter what they're paying," the other replied. "If we don't find it soon, the Azurians will send their own people, and I don't fancy dealing with them." Tom's blood ran cold. He'd heard of the Azurians, a notoriously advanced species from the Outer Rim. They kept to themselves mostly, but their technology was legendary. Some said they could reshape matter itself. Back in his office, Tom found Nova attempting to repair his broken coffee maker. Their six-fingered hands moved with surprising precision, manipulating the machine's components. When they noticed him watching, their skin rippled with patterns that Tom had learned indicated happiness. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" Tom smiled, setting down the food he'd brought. But his mind was racing. If Nova was connected to the Azurians, that would explain the manhunt. But why would they abandon one of their own? Nova suddenly froze, their skin shifting to dark, warning colors. Seconds later, Tom heard footsteps in the corridor outside, much closer than any patrol should be. He quickly dimmed the lights and motioned for Nova to hide behind the storage units. The door chimed, and a voice called out, "Maintenance inspection." Tom's heart hammered. This wasn't standard procedure. He opened a comm channel. "This is Chen. Bay 4 is undergoing critical waste processing. Area is quarantined for the next 6 hours. A pause. Then, override authorization Sierra 97. Opening door. Tom grabbed the wrench from his toolkit. It wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. As the door began to slide open, Nova made a strange humming sound. The lights flickered, and suddenly every electronic device in the room went dead. In the darkness, Tom heard cursing from the corridor. "Power failure in Section D. Get maintenance down here now." The footsteps retreated. Tom waited several minutes before using his manual override to restore power. When the lights came back on, he found Nova trembling, their skin almost transparent. "You did that, didn't you?" Tom whispered. Nova nodded weakly. then pulled up their sleeve. There, embedded in their arm, was a crystal identical to the fragments Tom had found in the recycling system. The pieces started falling into place. The crystal wasn't just decoration, it was technology, far beyond anything humans had developed. And Nova wasn't just a refugee. They were carrying something valuable enough to attract very dangerous attention. Tom's tablet chimed with an urgent message. He'd set up alerts for any unusual communications, and this one made his stomach drop. A private yacht had just requested emergency docking clearance. Its registry number matched known Azurian diplomatic vessels. "They're coming for you, aren't they?" Tom asked softly. Nova's skin darkened in response, showing swirling patterns that reminded Tom of storm clouds. Using the tablet, Nova drew a series of intricate symbols. Tom didn't recognize them, but their meaning was clear enough: danger. Then Nova added another drawing, a crown shattered into pieces. "You're running from your own people," Tom realized. "Someone powerful." Nova nodded vigorously. Tom ran his hands through his graying hair. He had a choice to make. He could turn Nova over to the authorities, wash his hands of the whole situation. It would be the safe thing to do, the smart thing. But then he thought of Sarah, of how he'd want someone to help her if she was ever in trouble. Besides, his marriage had ended partly because he always played it safe, never took risks. Maybe it was time to change that. "Okay," he said, beginning to pack essential supplies. "We need to get you off this station, but first we're going to need help." He pulled up the personnel files on his tablet, scrolling until he found the name he wanted: Dr. Maya Rodriguez, xenobiologist. If anyone could help them understand what they were dealing with, it was her. Nova watched him with those impossibly large eyes, their skin starting to shimmer with what Tom hoped was hope. He reached out and squeezed their hand gently. "Whatever you're running from, you're not alone anymore," he promised. "But we better hurry. Things are about to get very interesting." As if in response, the station's alert system began blaring. "Attention all personnel. Station-wide security lockdown initiating in 30 minutes. All civilians are to return to their quarters immediately." Tom grabbed his emergency kit and gestured for Nova to follow. They had a half hour to reach Maya's lab, convince her to help them, and figure out an escape plan. All while avoiding both station security and whatever Azurian delegation was about to arrive. Just another day in the life of a waste management technician, he thought wryly. Sarah would never believe this story, assuming they lived long enough to tell it. Truth in the laboratory. The service corridors of Orbital Station Delta had never felt longer. Tom led Nova through the maze of maintenance tunnels, his mind racing faster than his feet. The station's warning system continued its countdown, each announcement making his pulse spike. 20 minutes until station-wide lockdown. They reached the science deck through a rarely used access shaft. Dr. Maya Rodriguez's lab was at the far end, the quiet corner as staff called it, where she could conduct her xenobiological research in peace. Tom had only met her once, during a plumbing emergency, but he'd never forgotten her kindness and sharp intelligence. Nova suddenly grabbed Tom's arm, their skin shifting to warning colors. Voices echoed from around the corner. Tom quickly pulled them into a supply closet, leaving the door cracked just enough to see. 2 Blue Shield officers passed by, escorting a tall, elegant figure. Tom's breath caught. The visitors' clothing rippled like liquid metal, and their movements had an otherworldly grace that marked them as Azurian nobility. "The human authorities are being most uncooperative," the Azurians said, their voice musical but cold. "Remind them that harboring a fugitive of the Celestial Court is an act of war." Once they passed, Tom and Nova continued their journey, moving with greater urgency. They reached Maya's lab with 15 minutes to spare. Tom pressed the intercom, praying she was working late as usual. Lab 7, Dr. Rodriguez speaking. "Doctor, this is Tong Chen from maintenance. Remember the blocked pipe in Section 3? I've got another situation that needs your expertise. It's urgent." A pause. Then the door slid open, revealing a woman in her early 40s with streaks of silver in her dark hair. Her eyes widened at the sight of Nova. "Inside, quickly," she said, ushering them in. As soon as the door closed, she activated the lab's privacy protocols. "I assume this is connected to our visitors." "You could say that," Tom replied, watching Nova explore the lab with curious movements. "We need your help, Doctor, and we don't have much time." Maya studied Nova intently. Remarkable. The chromomorphic abilities alone are fascinating. But there's more, isn't there? Tom nodded, explaining everything: the crystals, Nova's apparent technological control, the pursuing forces. Maya's expression grew increasingly serious. "Show her," Tom encouraged Nova gently. "She can help." Nova hesitated, then held out their arm. The embedded crystal pulsed with soft light. Maya gasped, grabbing a scanner from her workbench. "This is impossible," she whispered, studying the readings. "The crystal's structure, it's not just technology, it's alive. Some kind of biomechanical symbiosis I've never seen before. 10 minutes until station-wide lockdown." Maya moved quickly, downloading the scanner data to a secure drive. "Your young friend isn't just Azurian nobility. They're carrying what could be the most advanced biotechnology in known space. No wonder everyone's hunting them." Nova used Tom's tablet to draw new symbols, a spiral pattern surrounding a central crystal. Maya's eyes widened in recognition. "The spiral throne," she breathed. "The source of Azurian power. But that would mean—" She looked at Nova with new understanding. "You're the heir, aren't you? And someone doesn't want you to take the throne." Nova's skin rippled with confirmation patterns. They drew more: figures in shadow, a broken crown, and what looked like a virus attacking the spiral pattern. "Your crystals," Maya said, putting it together. "They're trying to corrupt the entire system. A technological coup." "Great," Tom muttered. "We're not just hiding a refugee, we're hiding the rightful ruler of the most advanced civilization in known space. Any suggestions?" Maya was already moving, gathering equipment. "The crystals are the key. If we can prove they're being targeted by a cyber attack, we can expose the coup. But we'll need access to the station's quantum communications array." "Which is in the central spire," Tom groaned. "The most heavily guarded section of the station." 5 minutes until station-wide lockdown. Nova suddenly straightened, their skin glowing with determination. They pointed to the ceiling, then made a lifting motion. "The maintenance tubes," Tom realized. "They run all the way up the spire, but they'll be monitoring those." "Not if we give them something else to watch," Maya said, moving to her computer. Her fingers flew over the keys. "A few false alarms in the lower levels should keep them busy. But we'll need a distraction to reach the access point." Warning klaxons suddenly blared. Maya's screens filled with alerts. "Unknown vessels approaching. All personnel to emergency stations." Tom rushed to the window. 3 ships had appeared from nowhere, their designs unlike anything he'd seen before. They moved with impossible grace, dancing around the station's defense platforms. "More Azurians?" he asked. Nova's skin patterns spelled out a clear answer: allies. "Perfect timing," Maya said, shouldering a bag of equipment. "The station's security will be divided between the lockdown and the new threat. We need to move now." 2 minutes until station-wide lockdown. They hurried into the maintenance tube, Maya leading with her scanner, Tom bringing up the rear. Nova moved silently between them, their skin shifting to match the metallic walls. As they climbed toward the spire, Tom thought of Sarah again. She'd once asked him why he never did anything exciting. Well, sweetheart, he thought, helping an alien princess expose a coup while climbing through maintenance tubes during a space battle should count as exciting. Nova reached back and squeezed his hand, their skin momentarily matching his own. The gesture said more than words could have. "Thank you, trust me, we'll make it." 1 minute until station-wide lockdown. Above them, the spire waited. Below, their pursuers searched. And all around, a battle was about to begin that would change the course of human-alien relations forever. Tom took a deep breath and kept climbing. Sometimes the biggest adventures start with the smallest choices, like helping a scared kid in a maintenance tube. The ascent. The maintenance shaft seemed endless as they climbed toward the station's central spire. Each rung brought them closer to their goal and to danger. Tom's arms burned, but he kept moving. The sound of distant explosions reminded them that the battle outside was intensifying. Station alert. Hull breach detected in sectors 7 through 9. Emergency containment protocols engaged. Maya consulted her scanner between climbs. The quantum array is 3 levels up. Nova's allies are keeping the station's defenses occupied, but we don't have much time. Nova, who had been leading their ascent, suddenly froze. Their skin shifted to warning patterns, dark swirls with flashes of red. Below them, they heard the distinct sound of a maintenance hatch opening. "They're in the twos," Tom whispered. "How did they find us so quickly?" Maya pointed to a junction ahead. "Service corridor intersection. We can cross to the secondary shaft there." They moved as quietly as possible, but in the confined space, every sound seemed amplified. As they reached the junction, voices echoed up from below. "Energy signature detected. Level 42, moving upward. Quantum disruption fields ready." Tom helped Nova through the junction first, then Maya. As he prepared to follow, his tool belt caught on a protruding pipe. The resulting clang seemed to echo forever. "Contact confirmed. Move in. Go." Tom urged the others, finally freeing himself. They scrambled through the secondary shaft, no longer worried about stealth. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew closer. Nova suddenly stopped at a seemingly blank wall section. Their embedded crystal pulsed, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance crawlway. The old systems, Maya realized. From before the station's upgrade, they're not on current maps. They squeezed through just as energy bolts began scorching the walls behind them. The panel sealed seamlessly, leaving no trace of their passage. The crawlway was tight and dusty, clearly unused for years. They moved as quickly as the space allowed, guided by Nova's apparent knowledge of the station's original layout. "How are they tracking us?" Tom wondered aloud. Maya's scanner beeped. The crystal in Nova's arm, it emits a unique quantum signature. "That's how they're following us." She dug in her bag and pulled out what looked like a silver bracelet. "This might help. It's an experimental quantum dampener. I was studying its effects on exotic particles." Nova allowed her to snap it around their wrist. The crystal's glow dimmed slightly. "It won't hide the signature completely," Maya explained, "but it should confuse their sensors." They emerged into a vast vertical shaft, one of the station's main power conduits. Massive energy coils pulsed with blue light, creating an otherworldly atmosphere. A narrow maintenance ledge spiraled upward around the shaft's circumference. "The array's just above us," Maya said, "but we'll be exposed on that ledge." As if to emphasize her point, an explosion rocked the station. The lights flickered ominously. "Station alert. Primary power systems compromised. Switching to auxiliary power." Nova's skin rippled with urgent patterns. They pointed up, then made a series of complex gestures. "What are they saying?" Tom asked. Maya studied the patterns. "I think they're saying the crystal network is already being corrupted. If we don't reach the array soon, they won't be able to prove the coup attempt." They started up the spiral ledge, moving as fast as they dared. The ledge was barely wide enough for single file, with no railing between them and the energy-filled abyss below. Halfway up, Nova suddenly stumbled. Their skin flickered erratically, and the crystal in their arm pulsed with unstable light. "The dampener," Maya realized. "It's affecting them too." "Nova, take it off." But before Nova could remove the bracelet, a voice rang out from above. "That won't be necessary, young heir." 3 figures stood on the ledge above them. Their liquid metal clothing marked them as Azurian, but something was wrong. Their movements were too rigid, almost mechanical. The corruption has already begun, the leader said, voice distorting. Surrender now, and we'll make it quick. Nova's response was unexpected. They stepped forward, skin blazing with light, and raised their arms. The crystal in their arm pulsed in sync with the station's power coils. Get down, Maya yelled, pulling Tom back. Energy surged through the shaft. The power coils flared blindingly bright. For a moment, Tom saw the Azurians' true forms, bodies partly transformed into crystalline machinery, the corruption eating away at their organic forms. The light reached a crescendo, and the corrupted Azurians screamed. When Tom could see again, they were gone, either destroyed or fled. But Nova was on their knees, shaking. Their skin had turned almost transparent, the crystal in their arm flickering weakly. What do they do? Tom asked, helping them up. Showed us what we're really fighting, Maya replied grimly. This isn't just a coup, it's an infection. A technological virus trying to turn the Azurians into something else. And Nova may be the only one who can stop it. Nova managed to stand, though they leaned heavily on Tom. They pointed upward with determination. The quantum array was just above them, and with it, their chance to expose the truth. Station alert. Unknown energy surge detected in Central Spire. Security teams converging on location. Well, Tom said, managing a smile, at least we're not bored. Nova's skin rippled with what might have been laughter, and for a moment, they were just a kid again, brave, scared, and far from home. Tom squeezed their shoulder. Come on, Your Highness. Let's go save your people. They resumed their climb, knowing that above them lay either salvation or capture, victory or defeat. But they'd face it together. A maintenance worker, a scientist, and an alien heir, united by choice and circumstance. Sometimes, Tom reflected, the most unlikely combinations made the strongest alliances. The breaking storm. The quantum communications array sprawled before them like a crystalline forest, delicate spires of technology reaching toward the stars visible through the spire's transparent dome. Under normal circumstances, Tom would have paused to admire the view. But circumstances were far from normal. Station alert. Multiple security breaches detected. All non-essential personnel must evacuate immediately. Maya rushed to the array's central console, her fingers flying over the controls. The systems locked down. Nova, we need your help. Nova stepped forward, their movements still shaky from the earlier confrontation. The crystal in their arm pulsed as they placed their hand on the console. Streams of data filled the surrounding holographic displays. Incredible. Maya breathed, studying the information. The crystal network, it's like a living computer system that spans the entire Azurian civilization. But look at this. She pointed to dark patches in the data stream. The corruption is spreading. Tom kept watch at the entrance, his makeshift weapon ready. How long do you need? To compile enough evidence, 5 minutes. To transmit it to every major system in range. Another 3. Maya's expression was grim, assuming we're not interrupted. As if on cue, the station shuddered violently. Through the dome, they could see new ships arriving, larger ones, their designs a twisted merger of organic and mechanical forms. The corrupted fleet, Maya explained, working faster. They must have traced Nova's signal. Nova's skin rippled with complex patterns as they interfaced with the array. Tom had learned enough to recognize fear, mixed with determination in the swirling colors. Station alert. Unknown entities detected in Central Spire. Security protocols failing. Biological contamination warning in effect. The sound of fighting echoed up from below, energy weapons and something else, something that sounded disturbingly organic. Tom sealed the entrance, using his maintenance codes to lock down the access points. That won't hold them long, he warned. Maya's scanner suddenly blared warnings. Multiple signatures approaching. They're not just coming from below, they're climbing the outside of the spire. Through the dome they could see them, corrupted Azurians, scaling the structure like insects, their once elegant forms now twisted by crystalline growths. Where their hands touched the station's hull, dark patterns spread like infection. Nova's skin flashed with urgent patterns. On the displays, the data compilation reached 60%. They're trying to corrupt the station itself, Maya realized. Turn it into a staging ground for spreading the infection further. The sealed entrance began to glow red as something burned through from the other side. Tom grabbed a piece of broken equipment, preparing to make a stand. But Nova had other ideas. They disconnected from the console and moved to the center of the array. Their crystal pulsed with increasing intensity as they raised their arms. "No," Maya shouted, understanding their intention. "The power surge could kill you." Nova's response came in clear, determined patterns, better one than all. The crystal network throughout the array began to resonate with Nova's crystal. Energy built in visible waves as Nova attempted to interface with not just the array, but the entire station. The corrupted Azurians breached the entrance just as the first ones broke through the dome. They moved with horrifying grace, their partly mechanical forms gleaming. "The heir must be terminated," they spoke in unison, their voices a chorus of organic and synthetic tones. "The evolution cannot be stopped." Tom stood between them and Nova, his improvised weapon ready. "You want them? Come through me first." Maya joined him, clutching her scanner like a club. "Through us." The corrupted ones surged forward, but stopped suddenly as Nova's power reached its peak. The array blazed with pure light, and every crystal in the room, corrupted or pure, resonated in response. Through the blinding display, Tom saw Nova's skin turn transparent, revealing the complex network of crystal veins throughout their body. They were literally becoming a conduit for the station's entire power grid. "Download at 85%, Maya reported, shielding her eyes. But Nova's biosigns are critical. The corrupted Azurians recoiled, their mechanical components shorting out under the energy surge. But more were coming, and Nova was weakening. That's when Tom heard it, a sound cutting through the chaos. A simple melody, played on what sounded like crystal chimes. Nova's skin rippled in recognition. Through the broken dome, new ships appeared, sleek vessels of pure crystal, their designs unmarred by corruption. From them came the music, growing stronger. "The Loyalists," Maya breathed. "They're amplifying Nova's signal." The crystal song built to impossible intensity. Where it reached, corruption burned away. The twisted Azurians screamed, their mechanical infections failing. "Download complete. Transmitting now." Nova's power reached its crescendo just as the transmission began. Through every quantum communications device in range, the truth spread, evidence of the coup, the corruption, and the planned genocide of organic life. The corrupted ones fell back, their hold on the station broken. The Loyalist ships moved in, their crystal song cleaning away the infection like fire-purifying metal. But the victory came at a cost. Nova collapsed, their skin barely visible, the crystal in their arm dark. Tom caught them before they hit the floor. "No, no, no. Come on, kid, stay with me." Maya's scanner whirred. Their systems are failing. The power surge was too much. "Like hell it was," Tom growled. He placed his hand over Nova's crystal, remembering how they had first connected in that maintenance tube. "You don't get to give up now. Your people need you. We need you." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Nova's crystal began to glow again. Their skin solidified, showing weak but steady patterns. Through the broken dome, they watched as the corrupted fleet retreated, pursued by Loyalist ships. The station's systems began to normalize, crystal songs still echoing through its corridors. Maya's scanner beeped with incoming transmissions. "It's working. Systems all over the sector are responding. The corruption is being purged." Nova's eyes opened, their skin showing patterns of exhaustion but also triumph. They had done it. The truth was out, the coup exposed, their people saved. But as Tom helped them sit up, He knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a much larger story, one that would reshape the relationship between humans and Azurians forever. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest choices, he thought, like helping a scared kid in a maintenance tube. Nova's skin rippled with patterns of gratitude and affection. They were no longer just a refugee or even just an heir. They were family. And family, Tom knew, stuck together, no matter what storms lay ahead. Legacy of Light. 3 months after the Battle of Orbital Station Delta, Tom stood in a very different kind of maintenance bay. The crystalline halls of the Azurian Royal Palace made the station's finest quarters look primitive by comparison, yet somehow he felt at home. Still getting used to the new uniform, Maya asked, joining him at the viewport. Her science officer's insignia gleamed on her collar, a merged design of human and Azurian symbols. The fabric keeps changing color to match my mood, Tom replied, watching his formerly plain maintenance uniform shift through subtle hues. Hard to maintain a professional image when your clothes announce you're nervous. You're about to be formally appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the Azurian Collective, Maya smiled. I'd be worried if you weren't nervous. The aftermath of what historians now call the Crystal Crisis had transformed human-alien relations. Nova's decision to trust humans, and the crucial role Tom and Maya played in exposing the corruption, had opened doors previously thought sealed forever. The door chimed with a musical tone, and Nova entered, though they looked very different now. Their royal regalia integrated living crystal in ways that made light itself seem to dance, and their bearing had matured. But when they saw Tom and Maya, their skin rippled with the same patterns of joy they'd shown in that maintenance tube. The council is ready, Nova announced, their voice carrying both authority and warmth. They'd mastered human speech weeks ago, though their words still carried a crystalline resonance. Are you prepared? Tom straightened his color-shifting uniform. As I'll ever be, Your Highness. Nova's skin flickered with amusement. I thought we agreed. It's still just Nova to you both. They walked together through corridors that sang with crystal harmonies. The corruption had been purged from the Azurian systems, but its aftermath had forced changes. The old isolation was over. Survival meant adaptation, cooperation, growth. The council chamber took Tom's breath away. Crystalline beings from across the galaxy gathered here, their forms ranging from nearly human to utterly alien. At the center stood the restored spiral throne, its network of living crystal now stronger for having overcome the corruption. As they entered, a familiar melody filled the air, the crystal song that had helped save the station. But now it carried new harmonies, human music interwoven with alien tones. Nova took their place before the throne, their presence commanding despite their youth. We gather today to formalize a new chapter in our history. The corruption sought to divide us, to force evolution through destruction. Instead, it taught us that true evolution comes through connection. They gestured to Tom and Maya. These humans, through their compassion and courage, showed us a different path. They reminded us that strength lies not in isolation, but in the bonds we forge. The crystal song swelled as Nova officially appointed Tom as ambassador. But Tom's thoughts drifted to that first moment in the maintenance tube, when a simple choice to help someone in need had changed everything. The ceremony concluded with an announcement that made both humans gasp. Nova revealed plans for a joint human-Azurian space station, one that would serve as a center for cultural exchange and technological cooperation. Its name, Nova declared, their skin shimmering with pride, will be Station Harmony, and its first chief of operations will be someone who understands both the grandest and humblest aspects of station management. Tom blinked as he realized they meant him. Maya squeezed his arm in congratulation. But sir, I'm just a maintenance worker, he protested quietly. Nova's skin rippled with that familiar pattern, part amusement, part affection. You taught me that no role is just anything. It's our choices that define us, not our titles. Later, after the ceremonies and celebrations, Tom stood with Nova and Maya in a private chamber. Through the viewport, they could see the construction of Station Harmony already beginning. "I got a message from Sarah," Tom said. "She's applying to the new xenobiology program. Says she wants to follow in her old dad's footsteps." "The footsteps of a hero," Nova said firmly. Tom shook his head. "Not a hero, just someone who tried to do the right thing." Perhaps, Maya mused, that's what heroes really are. Nova's skin shifted to show a pattern Tom had never seen before, one that spoke of hope, family, and future all at once. "The corruption tried to force evolution through division," they said, "but look what we achieved through unity." They touched the crystal in their arm, now shining brighter than ever. "Every crisis brings choice. Every choice brings change. And sometimes the smallest choices lead to the biggest adventures," Tom finished, smiling. Outside, Station Harmony took shape against the stars. Inside, 3 unlikely friends, a maintenance worker, a scientist, and an alien ruler, stood together, living proof that compassion could bridge any distance, heal any divide, and light any darkness. The crystal song played on, human and alien harmonies intertwined, writing the first notes of a new chapter in galactic history. Not an ending, but a beginning, one that started with a simple choice in a maintenance tube and led to the stars themselves. Echoes of tomorrow. 5 years after the founding of Station Harmony, Tom stood in his office overlooking the bustling central promenade. The station had grown beyond anyone's expectations, becoming a shining symbol of human Azurian cooperation. Through the crystal-enhanced viewport, he could see ships from dozens of worlds docking and departing, their crews mixing freely in the station's unique environment. "Dad, look what we discovered." Sarah's voice pulled him from his reverie. His daughter, now a promising young xenobiologist, rushed in with a hovering display of data. At 23, she had Maya's scientific curiosity and, he liked to think, his own practical approach to problems. "The crystal matrices we've been studying," she explained excitedly, "they're not just communication networks. They're recording history itself. Every major event, every significant choice, it's all encoded in their structure." Tom smiled, remembering his own first encounters with Azurian crystal technology. "Have you shown this to Nova?" "That's why I'm here." Sarah's eyes sparkled. "They're calling an emergency session of the Joint Council. Something about echoes in the network." The council chamber had evolved since its establishment. Human and Azurian design philosophies had merged, creating a space where technology and nature seemed to dance together. Crystal formations grew alongside holographic displays, while the air hummed with the ever-present crystal song. Nova stood at the center, their royal regalia more subtle now, but no less impressive. 5 years of leadership had matured them further, but they still showed the same color patterns of joy when seeing old friends. "We've detected something remarkable," they announced as Tom and Sarah joined Maya at the council table. "The crystal network is expanding, not just growing, but evolving. And it's happening because of you, all of you." Holographic displays filled the chamber, showing the spread of crystal technology throughout human space. But unlike the forced evolution the corruption had attempted, this was natural, harmonious. "Human creativity and adaptability," Nova continued, "combined with our crystal technology, is creating something entirely new. The network is learning, growing, becoming more than the sum of its parts." Maya's research team had projected images of the expansion. Where human and Azurian communities mixed, the crystals developed new properties, new harmonies. The crystal song itself was changing, incorporating elements of human music, emotions, and ideas. "But that's not why I called this session," Nova said, their skin shifting to serious patterns. "We've detected echoes, remnants of the corruption, hiding in the far reaches of space. They're adapting too, evolving in response to our unity." The chamber fell silent. Tom felt a chill, remembering the horror of the corrupted Azurians. "We beat them once," he said firmly. "We'll do it again." "Yes," Nova agreed, "but not through force. The corruption sought to force evolution. We'll face this threat the same way we built this station, together through choice and cooperation. They revealed their plan. Station Harmony would become the first of many such outposts, each serving as a focal point for human-Azurian integration. The crystal network would be expanded, but naturally, with both species contributing to its growth. The corrupted ones believed strength came from purity, Nova explained. We'll prove that true strength comes from diversity, from the combination of different perspectives and abilities. Sarah stepped forward, her research display hovering beside her. The crystal matrices don't just record history, they learn from it. Every positive interaction, every successful cooperation, makes the network stronger and more resistant to corruption. Like antibodies in an immune system, Maya added, understanding dawning in her eyes. We're not just building stations, we're creating a galactic immune response. Tom watched as human and Azurian council members discussed the implications. He remembered that first moment of choice in a maintenance tube, how a simple act of kindness had set all this in motion. There's more, Nova said, their skin showing complex patterns of anticipation. We've discovered that humans have a natural affinity for crystal integration, not like our biological connection, but something different, something new. They gestured, and a series of crystal shards rose from the council table. Each one sang with a unique harmony, responding to the humans present. The next phase of Station Harmony's mission, Nova announced, will be to explore this potential, not to become like us or us like you, but to find what we can become together. Sarah picked up one of the crystals, her eyes wide as it resonated with her thoughts. It's completing something I didn't know was incomplete. Tom understood. He felt it too. Not the overwhelming connection Nova had with the network, but something subtler, a gentle harmony that felt right somehow. 5 years ago, he said, we thought we were just building a station, but we were really building a future. Nova's skin rippled with appreciation. And like all worthy futures, it will face challenges. The corruption will return. There will be those who resist change, who fear what we're becoming. But look at what we've already achieved. They gestured to the station around them, humans and Azurians working together, crystal technology and human innovation merging in ways neither species had imagined possible. Children of both races played in gardens where crystal flowers bloomed alongside earth roses. The corruption tried to force the future, Nova said. We're letting it grow naturally, through millions of small choices and connections. Tom looked at his daughter, now confidently discussing crystal resonance patterns with Azurian scientists. He thought of his maintenance crew, humans and Azurians working together to keep the station running. Every day brought new challenges, new discoveries, new choices. The crystal songs swelled around them, human and alien harmonies intertwining in ever more complex patterns. It wasn't just music anymore. It was the sound of two civilizations growing together, evolving not through force but through choice, cooperation, and understanding. Outside the station, the stars seemed to shine brighter. Inside, the future was already taking shape, built on foundation of trust laid 5 years ago in a humble maintenance tube. Not an ending, Tom thought, but a continuing beginning. The real story was just starting, and it would be written in crystal songs and human hearts, in shared discoveries and common dreams, in the infinite possibilities that arose when different peoples chose to face the future together. The crystal in his hand pulsed warmly, adding its own small harmony to the greater song. And in that moment, Tom knew with certainty that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them the same way they had faced every challenge since that first fateful choice, together, one small decision at a time, lighting the way forward for all who would follow.